Hello, everyone, and welcome to our SMART panel, Staying Ahead of Cyber Threats. Is AI the answer? Today's webcast is being sponsored by KnowBe4 and produced by SmartBrief. I'm Susan Rush, Director of Content here at SmartBrief, and I'll be leading today's discussion. Before we dig in, I want to go over a few housekeeping items. We want to make sure you get the most out of your session today. First, we want this event to be informative for you. So we encourage you to ask questions. There's a question box in the webinar control panel. It's one of the best benefits of this live event today, just being able to ask questions directly to our expert. I know I'm excited to pick his brain, so I hope you submit some questions as well. We have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the presentation where we will discuss some of the top questions asked. This Q&A panel will also be a place for you to ask questions about any technical issues that you're having. Of course, a browser refresh is always your first go-to. It usually fixes most audio, video, and slide advancement issues. But if it doesn't, post us a question there and we'll make sure to offer you some technical assistance. Second, there's a handout section on your console in your control panel where we offer several resources for you to access. One thing that I would like to call out is a great white paper, Critical Considerations when Evaluating SAT Vendors. And third, at the end of this webinar, we will award one lucky registrant a $250 Amazon gift card. Of course, you must be in attendance during the live event to qualify for the prize. Official terms and conditions of today's prize drawing can be found in the handout section. Scroll to the bottom and find that link. And with that, let's get into some fantastic content. Generative AI is benefiting cybersecurity efforts from compliance and authentication to enhance data analysis and capabilities. However, while rewarding, AI still does present some security risks. Today we'll cover some different topics, including how AI-driven analysis techniques can empower security professionals, challenges and opportunities generative AI offers cyber pros, AI risks and ways to mitigate those risks, and the intersection of human and AI use. We are lucky today to have a great expert with us today, James McQueen. He's Security Awareness Advocate at KnowBe4. Hi, James.
Hey, Susan, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and then we'll jump right into the topic?
How much time do we have? Let's see. I've been involved in cybersecurity IT now for over about 26 years, all the way back to my days at working at Dell Tech Support. So for those folks out there, you know what I'm talking about. I've done everything from building databases, computer systems, networks, doing network security. Got my CISSP way back in 2008. And it was there that I discovered, working through a little German company called Siemens, part of their security awareness team or corporate security office. I discovered security awareness, phishing assessments, educating people, and realized that I had a very strong passion for it. And fast forward a number of years, I started teaching at the local college here in Central Florida on cybersecurity as well. So I get to add professor to my title of Security Awareness Advocate for KnowBe4, where I've been there now for coming up on 5 years. And it's a lot of fun, probably one of the best jobs I've ever had, continuing to help people make those smarter security decisions every day, whether it's dealing with security awareness, phishing, social engineering, ransomware, or my favorite topic, artificial intelligence.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that's your favorite topic since that's where we're going to sit most of today. But, I definitely want to say that's great that you've added professor to your hat, to your cap, because, that education part of cybersecurity, AI, it all is so important for the future of the industries. So that's awesome. Before we get too deep into our topic, I think it's really important to distinguish the terms generative AI and AI. I often hear those terms used interchangeably. How would you define the differences between the two?
So generative AI is AI, but AI isn't generative AI. So now that I confused everybody, no. artificial intelligence is that all-encompassing um, aspect of machine learning, deep learning, automation, and neural networks. And out of that, large language models, that's all under that umbrella of artificial intelligence. And over the last, 5 years, 6 years or so, we've been seeing a strong move towards what we now call generative AI, where utilizing large language models, it's its own translator, essentially, is the way I like to put it, where you've got the algorithms and the automation and the machine learning that's going on of the program trying to understand what we're saying, whether that whatever modality that is, whether it's through text, whether it's through a audio request, or maybe even through a video request. Taking that language, taking what we've said, putting it into a format that it understands so that it can process the request or the prompt or whatever it may be, and then delivering back a response, whether that's back in text or an image or a video. We're seeing generative AI being used in a lot of different industries. We're seeing it being used in a lot of different aspects overall. So, AI is that overall aspect, and generative AI is just that one part that's generating material data for us utilizing artificial intelligence.
Great. That's a great foundation. I think that really, kind of helps set a good picture of what we're going to be talking about today. I'm curious, what excites you about using generative AI to fight cybercrime? And then also maybe what keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night? Well, I'll take the tough question first. When it comes to generative AI, when it comes to AI, when it comes to cybersecurity, it's what the cyber criminals are doing with it. We, like any tool that's out there, whether it's a hammer, whether, cooking utensils, those can all be used to create wonderful things, homes and wonderful food, but they can also be used maliciously as well. And AI is certainly no different in that aspect. And so a lot of, if anything, I'm waking up in the middle of the night is due to the fact of either reading something earlier in the day or discovering something and then thinking, oh my gosh, this is how it could be used maliciously. So, but it's just like anything else we have in society. If it can be used for good, it can be used for evil as well. So it's a matter of being able to kind of head that off at the pass, so to speak, when it comes to it. And we've been seeing AI used in cybersecurity already for a number of years. I mean, I can go pre-COVID, and that seems like a long time ago. But, back 2018, 2019, I remember walking around at cybersecurity, IT type events, conferences, and then having all the vendors there and, passing them. And as the years went on, more and more of them had the word AI in their slogan or in their elevator pitch, talking about utilizing machine learning to do this, or deep learning or automation to perform whatever tasks. And so we've already been seeing the aspect of AI in a lot of cybersecurity products already. Now with generative AI coming into the fold with cybersecurity, we're seeing that it can be used to help security operations centers. For me, when it comes to AI, it's one of those things that can help us improve in our tasks. It's one of those things that can help us be more efficient. Because essentially, we're using tools all the time to help, do our tasks that we have in front of us. And so AI has that ability to help us be more efficient, be more pro-efficient, and freeing up time to be able to focus on other things within, the cybersecurity space that we're dealing with.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I think AI as a buzzword has really come into its own lately. It's everywhere, no matter what industry you're talking about. Everything is about AI, but the technology and the base of it is not new, so right. I think that's important for people to realize, as they look to use these technologies, in their work.
The term AI has been around since 1956. It goes all the way back then. I mean, it was early conceived back in the late 40s by Alan Turing. And then in the mid 50s, you had a bunch of scientists get together at Dartmouth College for their conference and came up with the term artificial intelligence. And then as technology got better over the decades, in the 90s, we were finally starting to see some advancements towards machine learning. And as they took that term AI, getting it to play chess and eventually beat, your world champion in chess, Gary Kasparov. Even so, and I remember, I don't know if I've got any Jeopardy fans out there, but on the show Jeopardy, they had Watson that was developed by IBM that came on the show to play against Ken Jennings and Brad Rutter and essentially wiped the floor with them it played at the same level, had to ring in as well. And it was interesting because it kept ringing in too soon. It kept waiting for the lights, and the human reaction and the computer reaction just wasn't syncing up. But he ended up wiping the floor of the two best Jeopardy champions, being able to listen to the question, process it, and deliver a response verbally back to Alex at that time. And so AI's come a long way over the last number of years and just continues to improve and help us out to be that more efficient and proactive with our work.
Yeah, absolutely. A big Jeopardy fan here. So I was actually thinking about that while you were talking. So super fun. Just a fun thing about AI and the progression of it. But I'm curious, how are traditional cybersecurity measures evolving to increase sophisticated threats?
Yeah, like I said, we've been seeing AI being used, already. We're seeing it in network monitoring. We're seeing it in endpoint detection and response, utilizing that machine learning and that automation. And that's coming along, helping those different products, being able to do things faster than the human, but then also leveraging the machine learning and looking at looking at holistic actions that are going on within the network, within computer systems. Now, as we start to look at generative AI being involved, it's helping us with certain things like in the security operations center, in that level one tech role. It's a lot of monotonous work, tedious work. It's not hard. Well, I've been there, done that, but it's tedious. We know we can go through it, and having to search through the different logs that come in or different alerts that come in and being investigated. If we can get generative AI to be able to leverage AI, machine learning, automation, predictive analysis, going through, looking at that log, looking at that alert that comes through, and then determining, okay, is it a false positive? Is it a real thing? Getting the information and then presenting it to the tech, that cuts down on a lot of the work for that level one tech. So, we're seeing sophisticated threats happening with them using generative AI already. So we're having to, counter that by making sure that we're leveraging generative AI in some capability within the SOC, within our IT, within our InfoSec departments, through education, through awareness, to help deal with those sophisticated attacks that we're seeing.
Yeah, I want to go back to something you mentioned kind of at the top when you were giving your background, and how can generative AI combat phishing and social engineering attacks?
Yeah, when we look at generative AI, but looking at it specifically on the phishing attacks, we know the cyber criminals are already using it because it's not their first language. A lot of the attackers, nation states that are out there, English isn't their first language for the most part. And we've said for years that, look for bad grammar, look for spelling mistakes. It's not their first language. So they're going to put that out there and you'll be able to go, yep, okay. And we're still seeing that. We're still seeing phishing emails going out, bad grammar, bad spelling. But now we're seeing more and more emails where the grammar, and especially in a business email compromise style attack, where the cyber criminals are already inside the system, they're inside the email servers, and they're sending emails back to other users within the organization with those instructions. Cyber criminals have basically leveled up their game now, because for years English wasn't their, let's take the English language. English isn't their first language. and they would make the grammar mistakes, make the spelling mistakes. That goes away. That's gone. Now they can just go into ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or pick your favorite large language model and go in and tell it what kind of email to write. It doesn't have to say the word phishing. I remember early on when ChatGPT exploded onto the scene, November 2022. Seems like a long time ago, but in actuality, it's not. But I remember reading the forums and seeing them going, hey, I got ChatGPT to write this phishing email for me because I asked it to. Well, now, OpenAI and Google and all them have got a little smarter, but you can still go in and write a well enough prompt to get it to write up the kind of email that you want. You just don't use phishing and links and, anything malicious in that aspect. But it's out there where they can then leverage that generative aspect for themselves. Now, when we look at, internally within our users, within us inside the organization, we can use generative AI as again, as a tool to help us in whatever capacity. From a cybersecurity standpoint, it might be helping us write newsletters, from a security awareness standpoint. It could be helping us write those convincing emails to essentially phish our users. I know within KnowBe4, we're leveraging AI in a lot of different things in our AI-driven defense agent that we use for phishing simulations, for security awareness training. So in that aspect, and then we're seeing generative AI to help write reports. If you feed it the information, it can then generate a type of report back for you or an email. One of my favorite little memes out there is like, hey, look, I got generative AI to take this long email and put it in one sentence. Or I took this one sentence and I had it write this whole long email for me. So we're seeing it being leveraged and used in a lot of different areas already within the different aspects, report writing, for different aspects of the organization.
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, you did mention there just about education. Like you guys use it in your security awareness trainings, and it really is amazing just how far we've come quickly, at least, as, in organizations, as we're, trying to be trained on how to spot these, right, phishing attempts and things. And that's why continuous education for employees across organizations is just so important. So just looking at, again, staying with some of the challenges, let's talk about how AI can stay ahead of cyber threats, but also, how is it challenging us by introducing new vulnerabilities?
Yeah, I mean, when we look at AI, it can help us with regards to that vulnerability management. It can be, leveraging automation, leveraging the machine learning, being able to identify our different systems that we've got on our networks, and then tie that in with the, whether it's the CVEs that are out there or the known vulnerability exploits that CISA puts out on a weekly basis, and tying in with that and making sure that we're keeping our vulnerabilities, to a minimum. We've got, depending on the size of your organization, it's not easy to be able to track all the different assets you may have, laptop servers, development, QA, all the different systems. And if somebody accidentally puts one, or even then whatever you've got in the cloud, and if somebody spins up a server or stands up a system in the cloud that's now got access back inside your resources and you're not securing it properly, that becomes an issue. But we can leverage AI to, be able to track that asset management for us, being able to quickly identify systems, and if they come up, identify if there's vulnerabilities associated with them. Because when we look at things like the Verizon data breach report, we look at other reports that get generated about how and why ransomware is so successful. That is done by them targeting systems that aren't up to date, aren't patched. And so, along with social engineering and other types of attacks. So, we need to be able to make sure that we're staying on top of our assets. We're making sure all of our systems are up to date. Being able to leverage AI through either applications or products or services, to be able to make sure that they are up to date, they are secure. We look at supply chain, looking at threat intelligence. AI can be used within threat intelligence to keep up to date on the latest, weaknesses, on the latest exploits that are getting used, and making sure that that doesn't impact our organization or your organization in this case. And then to have Gen AI be able to generate those reports and deliver them to you and provide you that information.
Great. And I always think, you may have touched on this a little bit, but I always think it's helpful to provide some real world examples of how, in this case, AI is being used to enhance security efforts. Do you have any of those?
Oh yeah, no, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Everything from hospitality to finance to agriculture to technology, manufacturing. Every organization is leveraging it somehow. And it was funny because a couple of weeks ago I called up a major hospitality hotel chain, and when I dialed the number, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get, push 1 for English, 2 for this, another menu option for this. And because I need to get a receipt for a hotel. Mm. And when I called up, it recognized that it was me because of the phone number I was calling from, was able to say my name. Then it was like, thank you for being a whatever status I was at the time, for a frequent flyer or, status that I had. What is it we can help you with today? And it sounded human, which, that's all that generative AI aspect, that voice. And I'm thinking, okay. And I was kind of caught off guard. So I wasn't really paying attention to go, that's not a real person, but I'm thinking, oh, it's a real person. Okay. Yeah. I need to get a receipt for my last hotel stay. Sure, Mr. McGuigan, we can take care of that. We can get you in touch with the hotel. And a couple more questions came about, and I'm realizing this isn't a human. This is, generated by AI. So hotel chains are using it. You've got, for years, you've had finance organizations using AI for fraud detection, looking at risk management or trading strategies. You go to use your credit card at, and I'm picking on a particular restaurant for no particular reason. You go to McDonald's and use your credit card in your hometown, or you go to another store and use your credit card, but then 2 minutes later or 3 minutes, several minutes later, your credit card's getting used on the other side of the world, and the finance systems recognize that, okay, it just got used here in this location. It's highly unlikely that it's being used overseas. Okay, well, let's determine that as fraud based on their algorithms. And now you get a text message that goes, hey, did you make this transaction? Yes or no? And if you didn't, then they're locking down the card and they're going their merry way to, resolve that issue. But they're using it to lock down fraud. We've got retail organizations that are using AI for inventory management, looking at optimizing store layouts. How are people moving around within their stores? Looking at vision technology to monitor checkout lines, and staff, making sure that, they're going through and, things aren't being stolen, asset inventory, that kind of thing. You've got the tech companies like Microsoft. We've got Copilot coming out, granted, because they've got such a buy-in with OpenAI and ChatGPT, but they are looking at Copilot being used in the office environment, but then also with Defender, looking at endpoint systems to be able to deal with malware and phishing attempts. And so that's all coming out of, Microsoft. So we're seeing it across the board, every industry that's out there, they're leveraging AI in some capability. And it's important that we look within our organization and not ask the question, hey, how can AI help us? The question we want to ask is, what's the problem we're trying to solve, and how can AI support it or assist with it? I know that boards of directors and upper management C-suites are out there going, we got to get AI in our products. We got to get it in our service, because we got to say that we're using AI, because we've been saying now for the last 18 months, if you're not using AI, you're behind. So I know we've got a lot of organizations that are trying to rush to go, we're using AI, we've got it here, and whatever it may be. But that's not the question. The question is, what is the problem you're trying to solve? And then where can AI help and support that overall?
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. And, just kind of building on that, in what kind of ways do you think, human experts and AI systems can collaborate to better strengthen their defenses?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. I mean, when we look at, kind of going back to our security operations center, we're looking at trying to improve threat detection rates. We're looking at reducing those false positives. We want to work with AI. We don't want AI to replace us. We don't need Skynet. If you know, you know. We will always need the pilot when it comes to our infrastructure, when it comes to cybersecurity using AI. One of the perks of my role at KnowBe4 is going to conferences, so I travel a lot and getting on an airplane. And every time I get on the airplane, I go in and I look to the left and into the cockpit. There's two pilots sitting there. Now the plane, and I've known for years because I've had some friends who are pilots. Planes can take off, fly, and land all by themselves based off of their programming, based off their own AI, machine learning, and so forth. They don't need a pilot, but we still have two pilots sitting in the cockpit of every airplane. Why? Well, in the event that something goes wrong with the software, you need somebody there that can make the corrective actions. Then you need the backup to that person in case something happens to the pilot. You've got your co-pilot. That's why you have two pilots. We will always need the pilot when it comes to utilizing AI within our environments, whether, we're using it in cyber defense, whether it's in finance, whether it's HR. There needs to be that check, that balance that goes on verifying, because we've seen already with generative AI with regards to hallucinations. When you look at the poor lawyers last May, over a year ago, that used ChatGPT to figure out what other cases were similar to theirs so they could help prove their case, and ChatGPT came back with 6 of them, and they were all excited, and they put it in the brief, and they ran it over to the courthouse, and they gave it to the judge, and the judge looked at it and went, "These aren't real cases." And then they got sanctioned, they got in trouble, and they got fined. So, you can't just take it at its, face value. It does take some effort to be able to go through and verify, trust and verify the information they're giving it to you. Now, don't get me wrong. I love using generative AI. I love using the chat GPT and those things to do for research or look up things, or it's my new Google essentially. But when it's coming back with information, I will still go through and verify it with another resource. One of the platforms, Perplexity, that's out there now gives you links to the articles that it's pulling from. So now you can go read the article and get even deeper information. So it's always important that when we have that collaboration between the human and the AI, that we're going through and doing that verification when it comes to, the false positives, the automated incident response. It can take care of those level 1 things for us, help with predictive analysis and behavioral analysis, looking at how traffic's moving on the network, looking at those endpoint systems. And essentially that, getting it to handle that level 1, frees up the level 1 text and now to be level 2s, going through and verifying that information. So it improves productivity, improves efficiency, helps reduce costs overall when it comes to, working with AI. But it's important that we go through and do that verification as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you think about it, the product's called Copilot, right?
Yes,
so
exactly.
It kind of it's right there in the title, as they say, right? Yep. So I want to leave some time for some questions, but I'm curious, looking ahead, what do you see for generative AI and cyber as we move through the rest of the year and into 2025?
Hopefully a lot more. We're going to see certainly some augmenting of our security teams. We're going to be able to either, I already know that a lot of our security teams are working on skeleton crews, are reduced. I'm hoping that AI is going to fill that gap for them. They're able to leverage AI, either generative or, machine learning, automation, predictive analysis, with their tools to make it easier for them. Look at being able to have it help us with threat intelligence, being able to understand what's in our networks, but then also being able to alert us, hey, a threat just came out, and whether you go through and automatically patch it or it's alerting you so that you can patch a lot quicker rather than waiting until the next day. You're hearing about it a lot quicker, and the AI is working with you, not against you.
That's great. All right. Well, I could sit here and fire questions at you all afternoon, but I did promise our attendees that we would get to their questions as well. So
sure.
Just going to pull those up. Here we have a question. It says, How does a company protect data, including IP, when assessing LLMs in the cloud?
Good question. And it is important because that's one of the things that we saw early on where you had a lot of organizations leveraging ChatGPT to ask it questions. You had a doctor upload patient information, personal, PII and PHI up to ChatGPT to get it to write a letter to the insurance company. So yeah, that, we had Samsung. That was a fun one in the news. We had Samsung coders upload secure code for their chips up to ChatGPT to ask it how to resolve a problem. And the lawyers had to get involved by reaching out to OpenAI to go, hi, we need you to give us back the code. We don't want you training on our material. And so, those kind of things happen. So, Ron, that brings up a fantastic question. And so how do you deal with, uploading sensitive information to a large language model? Because what it's capable of doing is, helping us being more proactive, helping us being more efficient with the work we're doing. So for me, there's a couple of different options that you can look at doing. One, either have an on-prem large language model. There are some open source ones that are out there. I think Olama is one of them, which sounds really funny. But Olama, I think, is an open source. But you would basically want to have your own LLM on site if you really want to keep it. Because we know if you can get your arms around it and you've got that physical perimeter, well, then you're a lot better off. Whereas if it's in the cloud, then anybody can get to it. I know that some of the, like with Gemini, with ChatGPT, they've created their enterprise version so that you can have your separate environment overall and they won't train on whatever data you put up there. But then how do you know that they're not going to train on it? One of the things, and we've done it with Enobifor, and our CEO, Stu Showerman, is just enamored by AI. Every day we have a different topic with regarding to AI. And one of the things that we did, because he saw the importance of wanting to use generative AI as well, but at the same time didn't want us losing intellectual property, losing sensitive customer information. We don't need to be on the front page for that. So one of the things that we did at Enobifor, which I think is brilliant, is that we created a proxy. Now, if you think back to, for some of you, you might remember, but I remember way back in the 90s when we were all on dial-up modems and we were all getting connected to the internet and we had T1 lines and so forth. But we had an internet proxy server. We had a proxy server set up that was connected to the internet, and all of our traffic went through the proxy server so the organization could make sure that whatever websites we were going to were valid or proper websites. If we were trying to go to ESPN or eBay or whatever, those could be blocked. That's what we need now when it comes to utilizing large language models. We need like an AI proxy. And that's what we created within Enobifor. We have a platform now where it communicates out to the different AI systems, but we're monitoring and filtering to make sure that our users aren't accidentally uploading sensitive information or information they're not supposed to. And then it does an API call out to it. As long as it's good, then it does the call out and then it delivers back the response. So we're able to see what the prompts are. We're able to see what the responses are within the organization. And so essentially, like that internet proxy, we now have this API proxy or AI proxy for our organization to be able to properly protect it. So you can go to that extreme with it. You could have your own on-site large language models, but also at the same time, you want to make sure that we are educating our users on using AI, generative AI, large language models, making sure they're aware that, if you're having that available in your organization, that you are educating users to be careful they're not uploading that sensitive information overall and then putting your organization, in some dire straits.
Yeah. Before I get to the next question, some of our attendees might not even understand the dial-up concept. But no, that was
I remember those days. You're old when.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we fit right there. But so our next question is, how are we ensuring that the fundamentals of security are taken care of ahead of companies adopting AI? And the question is, isn't it better to ensure data is clean so that the machine can learn in the correct way?
Oh, exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the big issues that we see is with organizations when they're creating their own large language models and they're going through and training it. that there's that transparency, that, dealing with the ethic aspect of it, dealing with the biases, that you're giving it the right information. Yes, you want to make sure that it's accurate going in, because the ever famous saying of whatever garbage goes in is whatever garbage you're going to get out. There was an interesting there was another parts of that, dealing with fundamentals of security, making sure you're dealing with those of the organization. And I'm going to kind of reemphasize education, making sure that, yes, you're doing security awareness training for the users overall for the organization, hence KnowBe4, but also at the same point, making sure that your developers, they have that security understanding and awareness, and making sure that if they are providing a service like a large language model with AI, that there's an opt-out capability as well for whoever's going to use that as a service, so that way they know their data isn't going to be used for training or stored within that large language model, within that AI environment. But yeah, it's important that we address the issue of biases with regards to large language models, because it's going to take whatever it trained on. Back in 2017, I know 7 years ago, you had Microsoft come out with this really cool Twitter chat bot that basically they put on Twitter and programmed it and trained it to learn how people were speaking online. Well, the problem is you had people that would come in and be using, we'll say, inappropriate language, racial slurs, whatever it may be. And what ended up happening was that's how it would start responding back to the people. So you had it responding with racial slurs, inappropriate language, cursing people out. Yeah, it was really bad. Microsoft ended up shutting it down within, I think, 6 or 7 hours after it came online. It happened very, very quickly. But another interesting aspect when it comes to machine learning and garbage in, garbage out, and I'd read this late last year, where if you had given when talking about AI and machine learning, if you fed it information, let's say you had a survey done throughout the United States of who won the Civil War and why, and what was the outcome of it. And if you fed all those results in from everybody in the United States into that system, and let's argumentatively say that 52% of the people said the Civil War, was bad for the country, and 50% said it was good for the country. Sorry, I messed it up. The 52% of the Civil War, the Union that won, the 52% that won, was good. The 50%, the Confederate, was bad and overall. When it comes to the discussion, or when it comes to asking questions, the biasness of that AI is going to be that it was a short margin, a very short window that it won, that the Union won. They barely just won, because it's 52 to 48, so to speak. So whatever information you're giving it, we want to make sure that there's the proper bias, that there's that transparency and accountability that goes along with it overall. But yeah, we do want to make sure that whatever data we're feeding it is accurate data overall.
Great. And then we have another question here. It says, how do organizations balance the benefits of AI-driven cybersecurity with privacy and ethics concerns?
Yeah, when we start talking about privacy and ethics overall, you want to, data privacy is key, looking at making sure that we're using only the necessary data overall. When we start adding more data or extra data, superfluous data that goes in there, that can cause concerns or can cause problems. Especially when we start looking at things like GDPR, HIPAA, those, and now we're seeing more and more states cropping up with regards to their privacy laws overall. It's important that we can anonymize and encrypt any of the data that we've got in there overall, looking so that way we can be able to protect, that individual privacy, but also having transparency and accountability, as I just touched upon, understanding and being able to explain any decisions that get made with AI, making sure that we've got some capability to do auditing, some oversight committee with regards to that AI overall. When it comes to things like the chat bots that we see out there, this was in the news. Air Canada launched a chat bot on their website to kind of handle those level 1 questions for people, dealing with flights. Is my flight delayed? Where's my plane? What do I need to bring in for check-in? Those kind of things. Well, you had somebody that lived in Southern Ontario, put in a question that dealt with bereavement. They had one of their family members pass away very suddenly, and they had to fly out to Vancouver. And so they said, what's the policy or what's the process surrounding bereavement? And the system responded, purchase your ticket, and then after you've done the trip, come back to us and we'll reimburse you. So the guy was like, cool, great, okay. Bought his ticket, flew out, did the funeral, dealt with the family issues, came back home, reached out to Air Canada and said, hey, I asked the chat about bereavement policy, and it said I just need to buy the ticket and then come talk to you. So now I'm coming to talk to you. And they said, that's not our policy. That's not how that works. Mm-hmm. And he goes, but that's what your chat bot said. And he goes, oh, and the response back to that was, oh, that was only an experiment. We were just trying it out. Whatever it really said doesn't, may or may not have been accurate. He ended up taking them to court in Canada. Mm-hmm. And Air Canada went to court as well, and it went on for quite a while. Anyway, turns out the guy won, but Air Canada only paid like half of the ticket. So the guy's ticket was, let's say, $400. Well, Air Canada only paid him $200. But what cracked me up with the whole thing was, why didn't just Air Canada own up to it, pay the guy the $400 rather than spending all this time, effort, and legal fees to deal with this? But for me, I mean, the stubbornness is there, but just the interesting concept of the fact that, you utilized a AI, it didn't go your way, and you just got to, be accountable for it, pay the money and move on, and then pull it offline or deal with it at that point. So, there's that ethics aspect of it as well, not only with AI, but also, within the organization, but looking at, mitigating those biases, properly identifying that training data, keep the pilot. As I said before, you got to have the pilot, make sure we're doing that auditing, reviewing, cross-checking overall. But yeah, essentially, if you're going to be leveraging AI and something goes wrong with it, then you've got to be, willing to take on the accountability with regards to whatever it delivers.
Yeah, absolutely. It would have been a good chance for them to use that as a training exercise, right? Rather than
I would hope so. I would hope so.
So let's see. It looks like we're down to like our last questions here. And this kind of goes back to, when we were talking about those real world examples, someone's looking for some real world know-before examples. How does your company leverage AI to enhance cybersecurity solutions and stay ahead of cyber threats on your end?
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, we have this product called ADA, Artificial Intelligence Defense Agent. And that's now being leveraged within KnowBe4, within our security awareness training platform and phishing platform. So that way it's monitoring, it's able to create those phishing emails based on how well somebody's been doing already. Again, that's getting back to that machine learning. I mean, at KnowBe4, we get phished every week. As employees, I get at least 2 of them every week, being able to report on it. When I notice it, I report it. And that kind of information gets used as well, going, okay, James is detecting those level 1, 2, 3 type phishing emails. Let's start looking at level 4 and 5. It looks at our org chart and is able to see, oh, this is who James's boss is. Okay, let's send a phishing email, like a business email compromise from his boss, denying his recent travel expense, and see if they fall for it. Didn't get me. But, those kind of things, leveraging the emotional response when it comes to social engineer, my expense report getting denied by my boss and the email comes from my boss, you get your the cold sweat running down your back, or your, feathers all riled up because you're like, what the heck? Why did you deny? And so then it's a matter of going on to a secondary communication to go, hey, did you mean to deny my, expense? And then they come back and go, no, I didn't deny your expense. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then you go and check out the email, and sure enough, it's a phishing email. So, and like I said, we're leveraging AI within the organization. We're encouraging our users to go through. We have a Slack channel set up so that, people can go in and ask questions about the organization. I got a in sales, I got a customer that is refusing because of XYZ. What should I say? And then it gives you back a generative response. So we're being able to leverage AI in all different aspects of the organization, with it, whether it's in marketing, whether it's in sales, whether, our CEO loves using it as well. So it's in all aspects within KnowBe4, and we are just loving every minute of it with regards to AI.
Well, James, I really enjoyed talking with you today, and I'm sure everyone really has taken away some good, interesting nuggets. But again, thank you again for being here, spending your time. Thanks to KnowBe4, and it's time to give away our Amazon gift card.
Ooh.
I know. Sorry, James, you can't win. But let's see. The winner is, for the $250 gift card, is Colette Klyer from Iowa. Congratulations, Colette. We'll be in touch with information on how to get your card. And with that, on behalf of the Smart Brief team, I want to thank KnowBe4, and again, James, one more time for making this event possible. Thank you for attending and for your great questions. And this concludes today's event. Have a great rest of your day.